Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Dave's Top 3,000 Songs of the Rock Era, formerly known as Old Time Rock and Roll, where I'm featuring my personal top 3,000 songs of the rock era from 1954 to 1999. And today I'm up to song number 2543, and that one is Try a Little Tenderness by Otis Redding. It was released on this was released in 1967 as a single and was also released on his 1966 album entitled, what's it called? Complete and Unbelievable, the Otis Redding Dictionary of Soul. So that was the album it was on, and I'm going to talk about Otis Redding later. Here's a picture of him, by the way. He. I'm first going to talk a little bit about the song. I'll get to him in a minute, but so what can I say about this song? Try a Little Tenderness. It was a very old song. It was actually written, I think, in 1932. And um, some of the first it was first recorded by Ray Noble, the Ray Noble Orchestra in 1932 with vocals by Val Rosing, and then there were several recordings later, mostly just in the year following. Later 1932 was recorded by Charlie Palloy and his orchestra, and then in 1933 there were four versions of it, one by Ted Lewis, one by Ruth Etting, one by Bing Crosby, one by Bob and Alf Pearson, and in 1946 by Frank Sinatra, and then Otis Redding's version came out in '67, like I said, and finally it was recorded by Three Dog Night in 1969. They had another hit with it. Otis Redding's version went to 25, and Three Dog Night's went to 29. So those were the hit versions of this song. So it was a very popular song with a long history. And in case you guys haven't heard it, it's a really beautiful song. It starts really slow. It starts really slow and it gradually builds up in crescendo and in power towards the end of the song. And I think Otis Redding does an amazing job singing it. I've only heard his version and Three Dogs Night's version. I think Three Dog Night's version kind of pales by comparison to Otis Redding. So I think it was a really great and powerful song by Otis Redding, um, and now I'm going to talk about him. Like I said, here's a picture of Otis Redding, considered one of the greatest R&B and soul artists of all time, actually. But he died very tragically. He was born in 1941 in Dawson, Georgia, and he died at age 26 in 1967. He, like Buddy Holly, died in a tragic plane crash that killed him. He was on his way to a concert in Madison, or Madison, Wisconsin. That's where his plane was supposed to go. And he was supposed to play at, I guess, at the faculty or the Falcony nightclub near the University of Wisconsin. By the way, I've been to Madison, and I've been to the University of Wisconsin. Beautiful campus, and Madison's a very beautiful city, and I've been there. It's just a shame that Otis Redding didn't get a chance to perform there. There are another footnotes on this. He had performed on TV just the day before. He had performed. Like I said, the plane crash was on December 10th of 1967. He had performed on TV on a show called what was it called? Um, remember the name of the show. I wrote it down here. Upbeat. He performed on a TV show called Upbeat, and I think he performed the song actually. Try a Little Tenderness. That was just the day before he got killed, and 3 days before he died, he recorded his only number one song, his most well known song, and that one was "Sitting on the Dock of the Bay." I'll get to that later, but tragic death for Otis Redding, really great soul musician, and no telling how many more hits. He had plenty of hits, as you'll see. Even though he died at age 26, and there's no telling how many more hits he would have had if he'd lived. But anyway, now I'm going to go through his hits. So his first, he had several R&B as well as pop hits. I'm just going to go through his Billboard Hot 100 hits. He had quite a few of those. In 1962, we had These Arms of Mine, which went to number 85. In 63, he had Pain in My Heart, which went to 61. In 1964, he had several hits. He had Come to Me, which went to 69. Security, which went to 97. Chained and Bound, which went to 70. Mr. Pitiful, which went to 41. That's How Strong My Love Is, which went to 74. And finally, I've Been Loving You Too Long, which went to 21. In 1965, he had Respect. He actually wrote the song Respect. His version went to number 35. And Aretha Franklin, I'm sure you guys have all heard her version of this song. I've heard Otis's version too. I don't think Otis's version is anywhere nearly as good as Aretha's, by the way. But Aretha had a number one hit with it, her only number one in 1967. That one's coming up much, much higher on my list, by the way. Not going to say how high, but it's way up there. And then later in 65, he had Just One More Day, which went to 85. In 1966, he had a cover of a song by the Rolling Stones, I believe written by Mick Jagger. I Can't Get No Satisfaction. I'm sure you guys know that one. His version went to number 31. There's another one that's coming up really high on my list, by the way, which shouldn't be too much of a surprise to you guys because it's considered one of the greatest rock and roll songs of all time. Uh, and then later he had My Love's Prayer, which went to 66, and Fa 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 Fa, Sad Song, which went to 27. I believe Arthur Conley mentions that. When he mentions several songs and his big hit, which was Sweet Soul Music, another song coming up on my list. Um, and then in 1967, he had Try a Little Tenderness, which went to 25. I Love You More Than Words Can Say, which went to 78. Shake, that was a cover of a song originally done by Sam Cooke. I think Sam Cooke's hit version was posthumous, but Otis Redding's went to number 47. And then he had a song along with Carla Thomas. Here's Carla Thomas. He had a few duets with her. His first duet with Carla was called Tramp, and that went to number 26. I've heard this song. It's okay. It's supposed to be funny, I guess. I think it's kind of vulgar, but I guess to each his own. And then later, along with her again, he had Knock on Wood, which went to 30. I believe that was a cover of a soul song originally done by Eddie Floyd. Yeah, I think it was Eddie Floyd. And I did feature that one already. I think that was number can't remember what number. It was pretty near the beginning of my list, or near number 3,000. And I have another hit version coming up by Amy Stewart. She had a big disco hit with it. But I guess Otis and Carla also did. Their one didn't make my list. I've never heard their version. I'm sure it's good though. But that went to number 30, and then they had Glory of Love, which went to 60. So that was in 1967. Six hits already the year he died. And then he had several posthumous hits after he died. I guess he was so popular that he'd recorded several songs which he wasn't able to enjoy becoming hits. They became hits after he died, unfortunately. But the first of those, like I mentioned, was his only number one. Beautiful song called Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. And that one's also coming up much, much higher on my list. A lot of these are really great songs, by the way. And then he had the happy song, Dum Dum, which went to 25. Amen, which went to 36. I believe that was also a hit by the Isley Brothers. Or was it the Isley Brothers? No, it was the Impressions, sorry. And then he had another great song called Hard to Handle. I actually haven't heard Otis's version of this song, but the Black Crowes had an excellent version, which I don't think I'm featuring on my list, unfortunately. I think that was an oversight. But Hard to Handle is a great song. But Otis's version went to number 51. And then he had I Got Dreams to Remember, which went to 41. Lovey Dovey, along with Carla Thomas again, which went to number 60. Probably should put Otis's picture back. And then he had a cover of a great song by James Brown, Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, which his version went to number 21. And James Brown's version is coming up very high on my list of that one. So, like I said, a lot of great songs on this list. A lot of them covered by other R&B musicians. And then in 1969, he had a cover of A Lover's Question, which was originally done by Clyde McPhatter. That was also coming up on my list. Otis's version went to number 48. And finally, he had Love Man, which went to 72. And I believe that one was featured in the movie Dirty Dancing. They played it right after Do You Love Me when who was it? The actress played by Jennifer Grey. Oh yeah, Baby. Frances Hoffman when she went to the secret dance club after she carried the watermelon. First they played Do You Love Me and then they played Love Man. But I don't think that was Otis's version they played in the movie. If they did, then they got the timeline wrong because Otis's version came out in 1969, and the movie is supposed to take place in '63. But they do this in a lot of movies. They feature songs that haven't been written when the movie's supposed to take place. I know other movies have done this, but anyway, that was all the hits for Otis Redding, a really amazing artist. Considered one of the greatest R&B and soul musicians of all time. Even Arthur Conley said Otis Redding's got the feeling, and he did. So anyway, that concludes my feature on "Try a Little Tenderness" by Otis Redding. Thank you for watching. You guys rock, and I'll see you next time. Bye.